You are now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's Cathedra webinar. We are coming to you live on December 4th, 2025. If anybody has never attended one of our webinars before, know that our Cathedra webinars get their name from the Greek word for learning. And today you're going to learn how to make a go or strategic no decision for grant opportunities from your instructor, Diane Leonard, who is president of DH Leonard Consulting and Grant Writing Services. My name is Brooke Warrington. I'm the Training and Development Specialist here at the Native Learning Center. We're also thrilled that you could tune in for the webinar today. If you could follow along while I read the disclaimer aloud, this webinar provides a summary of fundamental concepts, requirements, and/or procedures within the allotted 90 minutes. The material discussed does not illustrate all possible scenarios that could be applicable. We also have our copyright infringement law printed here. So this is just a friendly reminder that the webinar materials are protected by copyright, trademark, trade secret, and other intellectual property laws. Moving forward, if you want to revisit this course, maybe you want to watch the recording or show a colleague the slides, anything like that, you can find everything you need in the courses section. I have also put a link to the presentation slides in the chat for you now. I encourage you to check out all our courses that are on the learning platform. And then surely you'll come back for another webinar. When you do, you can just join like you did today by clicking on that green banner. We do ask that you try to join with listen-only capabilities. We are recording, so it just helps to cut down on audio feedback in the recording. And if you've joined and you find that the sound's not coming out of the right device, maybe you're trying to use your headphones, Bluetooth speaker, whatever the case may be, if you go down to the bottom of your screen, you might have like a headset icon instead of a telephone like I have. But if you click on that, it will bring up a list of your speaker devices and you can select the right audio output. Even though we ask you to join on mute, we do still want to encourage class participation. We want to know your questions. We want to know your comments. If there's any kind of tech support issues that I could help you navigate through, we will primarily rely on the public chat for all of the above. So if you don't have that open yet, you can go over to the messages column. It's gray to the left-hand side of your screen. Click on public chat and you'll be able to read everything that people have been saying. And then if you have your own question or comment, you can click in that box down at the bottom that says send message to public chat, type what you want to say or ask, and then you can hit enter or you can click on the little paper airplane and that'll send it in where we all can see it. I also want to draw your attention to the shared notes section just below the public chat. If you open that, we have a lot of helpful links for you, link to today's webinar feedback survey, a link to all our webinars on our YouTube channel. And then with today's webinar, Diane has included a helpful tool for you called the Grant Research Guidebook. And the link for that is in the shared notes section as well. And I'll also put it into the chat a little bit later. But if you've joined and you are unmuted, you could always mute yourself by clicking on the mic. And then if you feel like maybe we missed something you asked along the way, you could use that hand raise feature all the way to the bottom right. All right, we would love for you to get the chat box going together now, if you wouldn't mind. You could take a moment to introduce yourself, let us know your name, where you are joining us from, your work or your role in Indian country. It probably led you to the webinar, maybe not. And your tribal affiliation, if you have one. You might be a tribal employee and not have your own tribal affiliation. That is okay too. You are also welcome. And then just a quick final note while y'all are introducing yourselves in the chat, just do your best to avoid clicking on that red menu panel all the way to the left side. Yours might just be the icons if you don't have it expanded like I do. But just know that it doesn't give you like a warning message. It will just immediately pull you out of the webinar and it'll take you to what you clicked on that menu. So it can be a little jarring if you aren't expecting it. So I just want to give you a heads up that that will happen. You can always just rejoin by clicking on the green banner. Just a quick note for you. All right, y'all. While you're introducing yourselves in the chat, it is with great pleasure that I introduce your webinar instructor, Diane Leonard. And Diane, I have made you presenter now.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brooke. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I'm guessing it's a very full day of lots of important to-do items, maybe some grant related, maybe some not. So the fact that you took 90 minutes to join us for today's session, how to make a go strategic no decision for grant opportunities, really means a lot. So thrilled to be here with all of you today. And I think I recognize a few of your names from previous sessions. So hi, thanks for coming again. Great to see you. For those that I haven't had a chance to meet in previous Native Learning Center webinars, quick intro. Why do I love talking about all things grants? It's because I've actually spent my whole career in the grant space, first as a grant maker, then as a full-time employee for an organization seeking grants around the state of Michigan. Then, well, I've been in consulting, working with a variety of organizations for a long time, just about 20 years actually. And I love all things grants, but let's be real, grants can be stressful for organizations, actually on both sides, grant seekers and grant makers. And my work and my team's work is to do everything we can to take the stress out of grants. I'm not saying grants won't have some stress attached to them, but I want to do everything we can to help support a reduction in stress for organizations that are seeking, receiving, and maintaining grant funds. And to do that, it means we talk a lot about what is a sustainable pace for us, what helps rejuvenate us. To me, that's the most important thing on my slide here with my introduction. And so for me, I fuel my work with running. Although it is super cold and snowy and windy in far, far upstate New York today, it was indoor cycling. I'm going to be honest. I couldn't do it. I didn't want to put the yak tracks on, indoor cycling. But that checked the movement box. And I did have some really good coffee this morning. So I'm fueled and ready. And I hope that you are too as you're joining us today, because our focus today is how to think about the processes, the systems that you put in place that help strengthen your tribal organization's decision-making muscles and ability as it relates to grant opportunities. And this, I think, is such a timely topic because, well, 2025 has been kind of a stressful year as it relates to grants, whether you were thinking about changes in federal funding or the impact of a government shutdown, whether you were thinking about the impact of AI on grant makers and the volume that they are receiving, because the volume has gone way up. The field, it looks different as we get close to ending the year than it did at the beginning of the year. So I just want to acknowledge that that has created that uncertainty, that change, the dynamics, that has changed a different environment for every organization to consider their yes, go, their strategic no, or not now decisions. So in today's topic, the thing that would be most helpful for me to understand about you right now, if you don't mind, is in the chat on a scale of 1 to 10. 1, we struggle with this on an ongoing basis. I'm not saying your organization isn't amazing and that you're not ready to get great grant money, but I want to know specifically about this decision-making process. Is this an inconsistent spot for your organization? That would be a 1. 10, we love having this conversation. We've got a really strong process, but we're always looking to improve. Could you let me know where you feel your team or your tribal organization falls right now on that 1 to 10 scale? There is no judgment in asking that question. I really want to understand, where are folks starting from today? What does this process or this idea feel like for you right now? Does it feel like that in itself is a stressor, not even the application? Or does it feel like something that you've started to really build some good muscles around and you're looking to fine tune? So again, a 1 would be, this go, no go decision is a pretty stressful thing in itself. 10 would be really pleased with our process, but always open to fine tuning. If you could let me know your comfort level in the public chat, that'd be really helpful. As you're doing that, as you're thinking about what your self-rating would be, what we want to cover are a variety of techniques that can help your organization. So I'm going to put a variety of tools, a variety of facilitation conversations, of a variety of curious, not judgmental questions that you can put into your grant toolbox to help your team, to help your tribal organization. And the reason that we're going to look at a variety of ideas is that each grant-seeking organization is unique. Each grant-seeking organization has its own culture of grant seeking. And so there is no perfect combination of tools or discussion prompts that are going to get each organization to the same point in the least stressful way. It's going to be a unique combination of tools, or again, facilitation prompts, different ideas that are going to bring your team members along in making these go or strategic no-go decisions. At any point, the public chat is open to you so that you can ask me a question. As you can see on the screen, I do have Q&A at the end. I will always ask if there's any outstanding questions related to today's content. I'll make sure we get them answered. But I would really much rather that you ask them in the moment. The public chat is a great spot. I've got it front and center on my screen. It's right here. I can see it. So I'm going to answer as quickly as I can within the content that we're talking about at that moment. So please don't save your questions in a parking lot. Q&A, public chat as we go along. So wherever you're starting on that 1 to 10 scale, whether you typed your number into the public chat or not, I'm guessing you thought about your answer. Maybe you thought you were a 3. Maybe you thought you were a 4.75. Maybe you thought you were a 6.1. No judgment on what those answers are. It's a self-assessment about what that process feels like for you right now. And what I'd love to hear is that after maybe today's conversation and a few weeks of reflection or trying an idea with a team, that maybe you go up on the scale, 0.5, or you go up on that self-assessed scale by 1, that you move towards the 10. Is it going to be a flip a switch magic moment? I mean, it might be. That would be really great. I don't think so. It's going to be a process of slowly building your muscles as a team to feel more comfortable in this decision-making ability. Everything we're going to talk about today is foundationally built upon this idea of proactive grant seeking. The idea that we want to be thinking about the grants that are best for us, that we do not want to only be reacting to things that open. We don't want to be constantly jumping because we have heard about a grant opportunity. We want to see what we can do so that it feels more stable, it feels less chaotic, it feels less unknown. I'm saying less. I'm not saying we can take away all of that, but that it feels less of all those things. So you don't have to type it in the public chat, but if you could reflect on what the phrase proactive grant seeking, what do you think that means for you? What do you think it means for your colleagues? And then based on those definitions, do you think that your tribal organization is currently being proactive in its grant seeking? No judgment if you said sort of. You had a definition in mind and you're like, I think we're sort of proactive. Or maybe you had a definition in mind and you said, not usually. That's okay. Grant seeking is often a very reactionary feeling thing for many organizations, regardless of what the portfolio is that they're looking at. And so what we want to think about is, well, I want to share our team's working definition as it relates to proactive grant seeking and thinking about how you can become more proactive. It is also a slow journey. It is not a change this thing, be proactive always the next day. It's not going to be that fast, that easy. The idea of proactive grant seeking and what we encourage the organizations we work with to consider is that you need to be selfish. In order to really be proactive in your grant seeking, you as an organization need to be selfish. Actually, let's play along and identify these steps in the public chat. If you're willing to, I would love for you to think about and type an answer in the public chat for this first item. What is your priority project or program that needs funding? Now let's think about in 2026. So what is the #1 project or program that your tribal organization needs to find funding for in 2026? Could you type, it can be an acronym, it can be a quick few words, a phrase, it can be a formal project title, but could you let us know in the public chat, what is the #1 priority project that needs grant funding? I get that you might have a whole list, but let's just go with the #1. We want that top priority project or program that's going to need grant funding. You might say, Diane, I have a list of 5, but I'm not sure which is the most important. I think that actually they're more of like a horizontal priority list instead of a vertical priority list. They're all of equal importance. Perhaps some of you are feeling that. Very common. Before you would even take the second step here with our working definition for proactive grant seeking, you might start to ask if it's possible to numerically order these projects in terms of need, in terms of priority. All right, so that your number one priority. Once you know that, now you've set the stage for finding funders that are the best fit for that priority project or program. Along the way, you are likely to find other funding opportunities that are a good fit for your organization. In fact, they might be a great fit for priority number 2, priority number 4, priority number 7. But your main focus is finding funders that are for that number one priority program or project. That is your filter. That helps you to start to have the muscle of what do we focus on. We have limited time, we have limited capacity to do all the grants. So how are we going to decide which ones to spend our time on first? This is actually your first sort, this idea of knowing your number one priority item. And what this is going to do is set the stage not only for some great decision making in a little bit using some of the techniques I'm going to show you, but what this is doing is ensuring that when you are following your grant seeking best practices, that you're not skipping anything proactive. By thinking about your priorities, by thinking about who would be the best fit, that ensures that you're taking time to do research that is beyond reading what has already been released, reading what already has a stated deadline. If that is all, I'm kind of air quoting, if that's all we're reading, we are sitting in a very reactive place. If we're sitting in that reactive place, that's often very stressful for organizations. So the idea that we know our priority, that therefore we use that priority to find the right funders, that is putting us in a proactive position. It's making it so that we are controlling some of the research instead of only reacting to what comes in our email or in grants.gov every day or in a state portal notification email. It's going to automatically position us to be in that more proactive space. So a go, no-go decision. Kind of a funny phrase, right? Go or no-go? Go, no-go. We had a whole bunch of discussion as a team about what our punctuation would be, our hyphens here. It's part of why we like saying make a go strategic no phrase. We use that a lot more instead. It's kind of a mouthful. The idea is that when we think about an opportunity that comes across our desk, we need to quickly decide, yes, worth our time, no, not worth our time. I'm wondering if anyone has ever tracked the time it takes for your organization once an opportunity is presented to the team. If anyone has ever tracked on average how long it takes for the team or the organization to make the decision to apply, so go, or not to apply, no go. Can you let me know in the public chat? If you don't have to tell me the time, but has anyone ever tracked how long it takes from the time the discussion starts until the final decision is made? You let me know with a Y for yes, an N for no, an S for sometimes you've thought about it or you've tracked it. One phrase we could use to describe this is decision latency. The time that it's taking for the team to have a decision rendered, to make a decision together. And what we know from case studies about teams, not grant related, but about teams that are waiting for decisions, the longer the decision latency, the more likely that a project actually is to fail. Now, these case studies are across all industries. It's not nonprofit specific. It's not tribal organization specific. It's not grant specific. Rather, it's super agnostic. It's across industries and teams and organizations of shapes and sizes. And what the data shows us is that when teams have to wait for decisions, whatever their project is, building a car, writing a grant, building a school, it doesn't matter what the project is, when decision latency in teams gets longer, the risk of a project not going well or like failing, the risk starts to go way up the longer the decision latency is. I know, that's really, isn't that great news? That's not good news. If you were thinking days or weeks that it might take for a decision, that is not probably a heartening thing to hear from me, that the longer the decision latency, the higher the risk for the project that it might fail. The risk in a grant application could be that we might not get it across the deadline in time. We might not meet the deadline. The risk, what it might feel like for failure, might mean super heroic things, working really long hours, really late into the night, maybe taking your laptop home on the weekend. I'd say that could be we could count that as a failure. And yeah, what's the biggest one? That maybe it gets in, but it's not the best quality of what you would normally want to go in. You didn't have time for the extra edit you might have wanted, something, and it leads, unfortunately, to a rejection. So the idea of this conversation today is that you have a consistent process. Now, these buttons, these are digital buttons on the screen, but look, I have my real ones, my yes and my no buttons. And no, I don't have the batteries in them because, right, I mean, I would just sit here and have so much fun, and only I would hear it unless I was sharing my sound. But I have them here so that we can, in discussions with clients, actually talk about what are we going to do? Because a lot of people feel the pressure that whenever a grant opportunity comes up that they are eligible for, that there seems to be alignment, people feel pressure to hit the yes button. I'm assuming that some of you also feel the pressure to hit the yes button. Folks don't even feel like the no button, which I've got upside down, they don't even feel like the no button is available to them. It's not even visible. It's not within reach. We want to make sure that our organization, that our team knows either button is available to us. Yes, we need grant money. Absolutely. But the buttons have to both be available to us. We don't want to chase grants. If we chase grants, we are what? We are probably being reactive, and we're really risking our overall competitiveness and the sustainability of our grant seeking process. So what are some of the things that are going to help us understand which button we want to push? Now, I was thinking about this, and I mean, all of my slides are always red. That's our logo color. Please don't take these red dots on the screen to mean that they're the red button. I didn't think about that one when we designed this slide. I'm like, oh no, it looks like a whole bunch of no buttons. Nope, it's just my normal coloring for slides. So these internal tools, these are good things, not red buttons. These are good things. These are things that can help you decide, is it a yes or is it a no? So it could be your vision statement, your strategic plan. This is going to be aligned with our strategic plan. We should say yes. This application is something that is brand new, that has nothing directly related to our current mission nor our strategic plan. Maybe that's a no. And maybe that feels like an easy no, but you still used your organizational documents to help make a decision. Maybe it's the existing goal statement that you have for a program or a project, or your existing SMART objectives that you wrote, maybe are following as you're implementing a project or program. You might say, if we apply for this, we're going to have to expand our objectives. We're going to have to change our direction. That might make you say, nope, no, thank you. Or you might say, oh, this project, if we get to write for this grant application, this project is going to be so well aligned with the current goals that we have written, the current SMART objectives. That would be a green button yes. We're going to talk about your grant team and your grant calendar. Those are incredible resources. They help to take the pressure off of just us and what's on our shoulders. We could be thinking about our overall grant readiness as a way to say we are ready, green button, or we're not ready, red button for now. Document readiness, technical eligibility, Those could be things that might make it, then it feels factual. It's not about us. It's not about our capacity. It's not about our opinion. It feels more factual in that situation. So sometimes that's actually an easier spot for a yes or a no. And what do we have in terms of capacity? Our own organization, our own team. How about our collaborative partners? Someone we've worked with many, many times, someone that's brand new to us. The capacity and those relationships are also part of the tools that can help us make a go or a no-go. See why I said each of you is going to have a very different toolbox of things that will help you make these decisions. In addition to what we have as an organization that's seeking grants, we've got some tools, some more items for us to consider that might help us decide between our go or our no-go. And these are going to come from our funders. Now, some of these might feel like some obvious ones, but I don't want to make any assumptions. I want to make sure we put everything on the table. So the RFP, the request for proposal, or the NOFA, the Notice of Funding Availability, or the FOA, Funding Opportunity Announcement, or the guidelines, whatever the funder calls them, those documents, that's a tool that helps us make a no or maybe a yes decision. If we can compare our strategic documents against the funder's guidelines, if we can compare our program design documents against the funder's NOFA, we can see how parallel are they, how aligned, or does it feel like they're going in very different directions? Funder webinars, always an uncertain moment of, are they going to read us their guidelines, or are they going to share some nuanced nuggets? You never know. That's why we always show up in the room, on the chance that we might get to ask some personalized questions, some things that would help us to read between the lines of their guidelines. Those events, whether they're a webinar or maybe it's actually an in-person event that they might host, those are absolutely some of the best ways to shake loose additional details to make your go, no-go decision if you're sitting on the fence. Maybe there isn't an event though. Perhaps the funder offers that you can drop them an email if you have any questions. Perhaps the funder actually has the capacity or the preference to talk to you on the phone or to chat with you at a collaborative community event or to see you at maybe a funder forum. If there's any conversation with a grant maker, that is, that's straight from their mouth. That's an opportunity for you to hear their tone, for you to hear what's the reaction when you talk about your work. Do they seem excited? Do they lean into the conversation? Or are they kind of quiet and unanimated when they hear what it is that you're talking about? You can read between those lines of body language, of tone, of volume and excitement to see, should I really? Or should I wait? Or should I just not? So lots that can come from the funder. So if we have our organizational internal tools, some that are document-based, some that are team availability-based, some that are org culture-based, and then if we've got our funder information available to us, how do we then combine them to make choices? Well, there's a lot of different ways that we as teams and we as individuals can make a decision. Some grant-seeking organizations absolutely love a decision matrix, a way that they can consistently approach making a decision about grants. I'm going to talk about decision matrices in just a minute. Others like to have something that feels a little more organic, a little more informal in nature, maybe more discussion-based, trying to build consensus. Another option is that some organizations will take a needs assessment, whether they personally as the organization are the ones that created and have that data available, or if perhaps like in my community, a local community college runs the annual needs assessment process for our region. And so some groups can then use that data to help inform, is this program or project needed in the community? Therefore, should we go after the grants for it? So they use that sort of data to inform their grant decisions. All available to you as an option, not one that is better than the other. It's about, again, your organizational culture and really for your leadership. What is their preference? What is their comfort level when making a decision? That is often going to be what will influence what is used most by a grant team. Now, the decision-making matrix it's rather formal. And honestly, out of all the organizations that my team works with on an annual basis, I will say that there is usually going to be maybe one, max two, out of the whole list of organizations that we're working with, where they really want to follow consistently a decision matrix approach. It is work to set up so that everybody agrees on what it is. And it is also work on the organization's part to say, we're going to carry through with this. We're going to continue to use it. We're going to continue to make it a tool and not slip into, still very valid, but not slip into the more informal discussion-based model where they're going to find exceptions. Oh, that decision matrix, it doesn't make sense in this case because fill in the blank. But for organizations that love this structure, oh, they love it, and it makes their life a little simpler, a little faster to make the decisions. Therefore, it's reducing their decision latency. They are increasing their odds of success with the project as a whole, getting things in without heroic efforts before the deadline. So what I wanted to highlight, and this isn't something I can put in the shared notes for you, rather it's something you can find online. It is a 10-minute clip. It's totally free. Stacy Fitzsimmons, a longtime friend and colleague, presented a 10-minute clip for my organization called The Decision Matrix. Are you taking the red or blue pill for your organization? So that's a pop culture reference to the movie The Matrix. That's what she was referencing there. Yes, it's a clip that's a few years old, but it is so beautifully concise in terms of what is a decision matrix, how might you build one. If you heard what I talked about for decision matrices, having structure, having a consistent approach every time to every grant, I think you're going to want to hear what Stacy has to say. Now, there's a little bit of a middle ground before we talk about that, like the informal discussion-based, the consensus approach. So if decision matrices is on kind of one edge of our spectrum of making decisions and how we might do that as a grant team, before we get all the way to the informal consensus building approach, in the middle is, I think, more of an if this, then that type approach. More of a choose your own adventure flow chart that might make it so that you have some obvious paths to pick from as a team. So this time I'm talking about not a 10-minute video clip, but an awesome post that a colleague and friend of mine, Jeff Bachnaut, wrote and published as a guest on our team's blog. You can scan the QR code. Oh, Diane, you can scan the QR code on your screen, or Brooke did a great job grabbing that and putting the link directly in the public chat for you. And what you're going to see is that there's a visual flow chart that Jeff developed with his team. And what they did was the Museum of Flight had a flow chart set out for if the answer was this, they might say yes and continue the discussion. If the answer was no, hard stop. They were pushing the red button. So by having some predetermined options, it wasn't quite as formal as the decision matrix. It was not as informal as a broad, wide open discussion that they were trying to get for some general consensus around. So I like this as a middle idea. I love arrows. I love flow charts. It is more structured than just having an open, all right, how do we all feel about this? And you might get some difference of opinions based on caffeination or engagement that particular day or passion for a particular project. So this is, like I said, a very nice middle ground idea that you might consider. When we look at these ideas, formal decision matrix, more of a flow chart, if this, then that idea, or discussion-based, what all three have in common are the types of flags, good, green, or not so good, maybe bad, red, that are going to come about in the process. So these are actually consistent regardless of which model. So that's why I wanted to talk about these more than anything. And yes, I have flags. So we will start with our green flags. And yes, if you're on social media and you've seen any of those trends, it's not like the hot trend of the moment, but if you've seen it before where it was like green flag and red flag, yeah, this is that same idea. So what would be green flag? Whether you're in decision matrices and scoring, whether you're in an if this, then that chart, or if you're in discussion, the things that make it so you end up clicking that green yes button, we're going to do it, we're going to go forward. How well does your work, your mission, your vision align with that of the grant making organization? If they feel aligned, if they feel parallel, good, that's green. If your strategic plan, whether a formal 3 to 5 year document or something that's a plan for the year, whatever its length might be, whatever its level of formality might be, if that bigger vision for how you're going to move forward as an organization, if the opportunity you're considering helps you in any way, we could say that that's a green flag. If for the project or program you would want to put forward for this grant opportunity, if you already know what your goal statement would be, what your big, broad, intangible goal would be, green flag. If you know already at least 1 or 2, maybe even 3 or 4 SMART objectives that are aligned with what the application's focus would be, green flag. We've spent a lot of time here in the Native Learning Center over the time of our webinars talking about SMART objectives. They take a lot of time to write, to agree on. So if you already have those written, you're like, oh, I'm going to get to use them again. Green. That's awesome. Having your grant team in place. So a grant team, it doesn't mean that it's necessarily a group of grant writers, a group of grant professionals. We're going to talk about the grant team a little bit later on. But having this team in place, green flag. Oh, this next one. This is negotiable. It depends on the type of grant you're considering. Some organizations we work with actually make this a bigger number than what's on the screen. I don't encourage you to work under fewer days. But how far away is the deadline? Is it at least 30 days away? I was very serious. We work with some organizations where that number isn't 30, that number is 45, or that's 60. They don't want to have the pressure of a grant application changing what their organization is doing day to day. Now, yes, I hear you, especially in 2025, for some federal grants, for some state grants, for some foundation grants, this deadline, you're like, I would love to have 30 days. So I have one with 12 days for a federal grant. And you're like, oh, that's a lot of coffee I'm going to have to drink if we get that done. Some groups, they already have parameters in place and they say, we don't care what it says or what it's for. We won't play that game. They hold very strongly to this particular flag of whatever the number is for their team. You might say that's negotiable for you. Again, it's okay. Each team has to have their own parameters that are going to work for them. Next green flag is that you have had some positive interaction, something over email, something over phone, something in person. You have had something that was a positive interaction with the grant maker where they affirmed that indeed you could, it seems like you could be aligned. It seems like you could be a fit. That is far from a guarantee, but that is a positive nudge that you could be aligned, you could be competitive. If you're looking at a collaborative application, already having the partnerships in place for any required collaborations by the grant maker, That's all the green flags. That's a lot of green flags. That's not just one green flag. That's waving a whole bouquet of green flags is what that would be. Because putting together a collaboration when a deadline clock is ticking is incredibly stressful for the organizations involved and difficult to make for a competitive application. Last one, the second to last one is rather technical in nature. Are you already registered? Are you already pre-qualified? Are you already approved in whatever systems it might be, whether it's ERA Commons or the statewide financial system or an online portal for a funder that is not an automated quick 30-second process? Whatever it might be, technical. Are you or aren't you? If you're not, that could be a red flag in some situations. If you are, it's not a huge green flag, but it's a little one. It adds to the feeling of how many green flags you have ready. And the last one is depending on what type of needs assessment process your organization relies on. If the project that you would put forward aligns with that need statement, that might add one more green flag to your tally as you're thinking about the application, about the opportunity. Now let's go to the other side. And yes, indeed, you're right. I have a red flag here as well. So what are some of the things that might make for a red flag? It might feel like a red flag if you look at a funding opportunity and it feels like it's not aligned with your mission, that it's a little bit of a left or a right-hand turn. If it feels like, or you hear folks talking about that we're going to create this thing to go after this funding opportunity, could be a red flag. If the deadline is less than 30 days away, could very well be a red flag. Doesn't have to be. Again, different organizations have different structures and comfort levels, but yeah, probably a red flag. If the team has yet to agree about what you would apply for, what the details would be, what might that program design or that project design look like? What might the budget look like? If you don't have an initial agreement, and especially if the deadline is already posted, the clock is ticking, red flag. If you have other things already in process, things that are for existing funders, or things you've already put significant effort into, if it's for a new funder, and their deadline is coming up, it's knocking on your door, red flag. If there is no chance of you communicating with the grant maker at all, actually, this has become a bigger red flag in 2025 than it was in 2024 and before. It's always been a flag. It is now a really big flag. The word of 2026 for my team, relationships, because that's how you're going to stand out in these monstrous volumes that funders are seeing. So if there's zero chance of even an email with a grant maker, I'd say that would be a red flag. Now, one red flag does not mean you put an application down. It does not mean that you absolutely reach for and push the strategic no button. You're trying to see what do the flags feel like? What's the balance here? More green or more red? Another red could be that you have applied to this grant maker before, you have been denied before, you asked for feedback, but none was provided. So you don't know why you got denied. That's worrisome. Why are we going to do it again? We don't know why we didn't get it the first time. It might have been that they literally just ran out of money and we were next on the list. We don't want to absolutely rip our application apart and completely rebuild it if we were that close. So we need to understand why we didn't get funding. If we say we're doing this thing, if we get the grant, not sure what'll happen once we're done, don't know how we'll sustain it, don't have any ideas or plans, I'd say that would be a red flag. It's going to be very hard to answer anything about sustainability for the grant maker. They will question what is the true impact of their dollars. Usually they don't want to come in and then see something completely disappear after their dollars are done. If there's collaboration required and you have no partnerships in place, red flag. If the grant funding is only going to cover a teeny tiny part of a much larger project, unless you have talked to the funder and you know that they're interested in this project, red flag. And lastly, if there is no support for your indirect costs, for your administrative overhead, you might say, we'll move forward. We might ignore that red flag. We might set it aside. We might discount it. But I'd argue that's one red flag for your organization as you consider the opportunity. So you're going to end up with some combination of red and green flags. You might even say, oh, Diane, I kind of liked that list. I mean, there's a few things I might tweak, but what if your process, not formal decision matrices, a little more formal than just open discussion and consensus, what if your flow chart idea was, hey, let's print out the red and green flag lists and let's circle. How many greens did we find? How many reds? There will be a different appetite for red versus green in each of your organizations. There's no perfect number of flags that we require of groups we work with. So I'm not going to tell you to have a specific number of flags, but you're looking for the balance. Which one is more heavily weighted? What you're looking for is more greens than red. More greens than red mean we would push the green yes button. More reds than green, we're going to push the red no button. So whether you have, and honestly, like some of these little props, you're like, oh, this actually, you might say this would actually help our team to talk about go, no-go decisions. We've seen it help. I'm not joking that even over Zoom, you don't even have to have them in the meeting room, but to have the visible image like I had on that slide earlier of the two buttons, or someone on the team actually has them and shows them to everybody on the meeting, puts them up on their camera. Even the visibility of the fact that there is a choice that we have to decide makes it more engaging for the team so that they understand this is our decision. This is not your decision as the writer. It is our collective decision. So I do encourage you, there's not very expensive. If you're at like a little office supply store, maybe you're on Amazon, but lots of little cheap supplies like that could help in terms of a facilitation technique. Because what we want is to have these conversations on an ongoing basis. If something comes to our attention, we want to be prepared and ready to have a strategic go or no-go discussion. But it'd be great if we had a lot of these conversations up front so that we came up with what our plan looks like. If we have an overall plan, a big idea for how we'll get from A to B in this next year as we're trying to raise grant funds, now, because we know what we've already agreed on, it might make it easier when something brand new comes across your desk to say, not now, but let's save that for next year. Not now. I don't think it's as strong as what we've already agreed on for this year. Because you have the comparison, you have the, wait a second, we agreed on this. I still like this more than this new thing. Giving that comparison to your teams, that it's almost a relative scale of importance. Where do we want to spend our time? Where do we want to spend our effort? That can help make those unexpected discussions go a little bit faster if we have this plan in place. So, and you'll find this in your handout. It's in the shared note section, our research guidebook. This is part of that. The first step that we want to have you take so that you've got a nice plan in place and then you can start to build those red flag, green flag muscles. The first step is going to be to outline your next strategic priorities. I have 5 listed here. You might say, Diane, my strategic plan document actually has like 7 things. Okay, we really want you to narrow it down to 5. If you have 6, all right, go ahead, write 6 on the bottom. But we really want to have 5 or less. See if you could combine a few of them. We really want to understand the sequential priority order of your big organizational initiatives, your big organizational ideas. All right, so that's homework number 1. And you might say, I've got it. It's right here. I've got it in the document. Okay, so then that's super fast homework for you, and you can write it into the PDF that you can download from the shared notes section. All right, number 2. Now you need to outline where you need funding. What are those priority projects or programs where you need resources? Go ahead and humble brag for me. How many of you could fill this list out for step 2 related to 2026? Whether it's that you have 3 items or you have 5 items, doesn't matter how many items you have, but let me know. Y for yes, S for sort of. How many of you could you fill this out? Not, you don't need to give me all the budgets. I don't need all the details, but I mean that you could quickly list what are those top resource needs. The reason I ask is that, the clock is ticking and we are getting close to 2026. And so if that's going to be the reset for you of a fiscal year, this is really important and timely homework. If you're approaching the midway point for your fiscal year, all right, not quite as much pressure for your homework on step 1 and step 2, because what you really want to do, and a lot of people think about these steps so that they're prepared for their next fiscal year. So you might have a little more time. Step 3. Please note that step 3 calls out not just you. This is not an individual little task here. This calls out your grant team, maybe some leadership. You want to decide what are the types of things that we want to focus our grant research on now in this moment and over the upcoming months. So for example, maybe you are a big, broad service organization. You've got a lot going on for how you support the community. You have hot meals for seniors. You've got a school backpack program. You have after-school tutoring. You have health outreach. What else do I want to put in there that would feel like, we'll go with 4. Those are pretty distinctly different. Yeah, 2 of them were food related, you're right, but we're talking about different age groups. Home delivered hot meals tends to be older community members. School backpack program, we're talking about kiddos. So there's a lot about them. There's some connections, but they're pretty distinct programs if we think about what would the goal be, what would the SMART objectives be. So we want to know when we're doing research, which one is most important for us to be finding funding for now. If we were in a tool, instrumental, Foundation Directory Online, Grant Station, whatever tool we're using, what would we want to search for? What keywords would be most important for us? So that's what you're trying to identify and list in sequential order up to 5 in step number 3. All right, so you're making really good progress. If you have these 3 lists, these are going to help serve as a filter while you're building a grant plan, and also each and every time in the upcoming year that something comes across. Let's play this scenario out. An opportunity comes across your email. And so you open your grant research guidebook notes, whether you typed into the PDF, you printed it, and you wrote it all down, and you find that the opportunity you're reading about has 0 alignment with anything here in step 3. Which button do you push? That might become, nope, not a yes. It might be a really fast no, because you as a team have already talked about, discussed, and agreed upon what you're going to do. So because it's not on this list that everyone agreed, these are the things we are going to seek grants for this year. Quick no, very low decision latency. That's a good thing. On to the next. If you're looking at an opportunity that came across your desk and you're like, oh boy, it does fit number 3 on my list. It could be a green yes. It could be. It doesn't have to be, but it could be. So you might dig deeper and then start to think about that list of red flags and green flags. Think about the tallies that you get, how many greens versus how many reds. But by having this list here in step number 3, you have a quick initial sort that is not only your opinion as the grant writer, it is reflective of everyone who has a stake in seeing grants be successful. Now, if we have our list of 5, up to 5, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 4. Now, when something comes across your desk, or when you're in a tool being very proactive, trying to find some new things, cast the net a little wider, each and every time that you're looking at opportunities, you're going to be pulling, ideally, these same 7 items so that you can compare apples to apples and not apples to oranges in terms of the funding opportunities. Your red-green flag analysis of an opportunity is best done if you have the same types of information about all or both, whatever's being considered, opportunities. That way you can think about mission alignment. You can think about the types of groups that they have funded recently. Do they look like you or not? If they don't look like you, red flag. Is the average grant size aligned with what you want to request? If it's much smaller than what you want to ask for, could be a red flag. Having these 7 items supports the green flag, red flag list so that you can make some thoughtful decisions about, do you take the time to apply or not? I quickly, verbally, just a moment ago, rattled off a bunch of different tools. And there are so many awesome trusted tools. Here are some of what our team relies on. There is no one paid tool that we endorse. We use many. We encourage you to thoughtfully consider what is going to be right for you and what's in your toolbox, but to have at least one trusted source for how you're going to get information about funding opportunities if you don't already have all 7 details about a funding opportunity available to you. Now, I've had to add AI into many of our webinars, many of our training classes, because, well, yeah, right, AI. You're like, yeah, it's everywhere, isn't it? It is. And so I want to talk about why AI could help you, but why I need you to be cautious about it. So you could open an AI tool of your choice, some sort of learning model, and you could ask it something like, give me the top 10 funding opportunities that are for the Thousand Islands region for health-related programming for tribal organizations. And it'll give you a list. I just totally made up those prompts because I was thinking about my own backyard right here. So I just made it all about me, and I added the tribal organization part. I wonder if those are good funders or not. Having played with this, our team and other colleagues have found that sometimes there is good information in a kind of a broad search like that. Other times, yep, there could be some hallucinations. There could be some fake information in there. And also, before we even search, hey, I've got a bigger question. Like, do you have an AI use policy in place in your organization? Is it even okay that you're putting in questions? Are you in a locked learning model, or are you in an open one? We want to make sure that if we're using AI for anything related to our grant strategy work, that it is within our organization's AI use policy. The other thing I really want you to be careful about is not even just that big, broad idea, but if you say, geez, I'd like to know more about, say, the Cummings Foundation. It might give you some information and actually take the Cummings Foundation that's in Georgia and the Cummings Foundation that's in Buffalo, New York, and it might combine the two. And so that's going to actually be really confusing if you try to use that information for any of your outreach. You're going to have mixed information about the 2 funders into one, and it's going to be no longer 2 clean sets of information about a funder, but it might actually make a mistake for you when you go to reach out or when you think about what that sounds like for talking points for a funder. We've seen that Cummings Foundation example is actually one that I played with recently. And I was like, hey, what? Why am I in Georgia? I thought I was thinking about New York State. So just to be cautious for how you're going to use that if you're using the information to help inform your go, no-go decisions. Okay. So now that I did the little AI sidebar, thanks for humoring me on that one. this idea that you have an annual plan. You have something that is not like solid concrete. Nope. It's something that is flexible. It is a best laid plan. It is the framework for what we might do. We might drop something off of the plan. We might add something to the plan, but it gives us the shell of what we think our plan will look like. This grant calendar idea, it is not just on our shoulders, doing the research work, coming up with the information that will help the team think about green and red flags or go, no go. That, yeah, we usually are the ones that do that work. The grant writer, the grant professional, the awesome team member who's going to have to write the grant, right? We're the ones that usually gather all that information. But remember, I mentioned that idea of a grant team a few minutes ago. The grant team is the group of colleagues in your organization that have a stake in seeing grants be successful. That group, whoever they might be, they're the ones that should help say, yes, this is our flexible yet rigid grant plan. I love the phrase rigid flexibility. What does that actually mean? It means that we're going to try to adhere to this plan, but that we know the grant space is constantly evolving. There will be some things that might drop off, and there will be some things that get added. So not firm, cured concrete. No, something more flexible in nature. And so that's what we want our grant team to help us agree on, so that then over the course of the year, if necessary, we can come back together, we can talk about our flags, we can talk about some new opportunities that might be a yes or no discussion. So what do we need to do with this grant team? We need to pull everybody together. Who should be on the grant team? I want it to be a wide range of skills and backgrounds and accountabilities within the organization. Ideally, you need to have at least 3 accountabilities, 3 subject areas represented in the grant team. The 3, someone that's responsible for the grant. Someone, number 2, that's responsible for finance, for budgets. 3, someone that's responsible for the program or project that we're going to be thinking about. That could mean that actually role number 3, accountability number 3, that program or that project piece, that might mean that actually we're talking about multiple projects or programs. So maybe that's where the team is going to expand. Somebody for that hot meal program I talked about, somebody for the school backpack program I talked about, somebody for the after school tutoring program I talked about, because they need to represent their interests in the grant calendar creation. They need to represent their interests in the strategic go, no-go discussion. You might also have someone that's there related to data and evaluation. You might also have someone there related to organizational leadership, maybe a final decision for approval for submission. But those first 3 are the minimum that we want to see present in a grant team. What I would love to have you do is to type into the public chat for me the initials. You don't have to type in their full name, but I would love the initials, or at least the first letter of their first name, when you think about who from programs or projects should be part of your grant team. Whether they are now or not isn't important, but who should be a part of your grant team for that program or that project perspective when you're trying to think about making decisions. So let's type in their initials, or at a minimum, the first letter of their first name. As you're doing that, this is helping us to think about who's present, who do we want to have in our grant team. Then you can think about the tools. What are common tools that are already visible, common tools that are already accessible to those individuals that you want to have on your team? It is not important, while we call it a grant calendar, it is not important that it is actually a physical calendar. Nope. It is not important that it is a digital calendar. It could be all sorts of digital project management tools. What is important, this idea about a grant calendar, what is most important is that more individuals in the organization can see, access, edit, add to this calendar concept than just you. Now, I have a quick link here to one of our other blog posts. It is, what is a grant calendar? You might say, Diane, I know what it is, but your colleagues might not. And so if you ever need a quick, like, hey, here's what it is, this is what I'm talking about, this is a lovely quick little blog post for you if that would be helpful. So what is your grant calendar tool? I was talking with an organization just yesterday, and theirs is Monday.com. Cool. Monday.com gives free seats to nonprofit organizations, up to 10 people being in the tool, and it's got a whole grant management like module. Awesome. Not mad about it. Super visible to the people that have access. You get up to 10 free seats. So, right, that would mean you could have more than just one, more than just the person writing the grants. Yeah, not mad about it. Here, wait, if I move my head, yeah, there we go. Okay, and I've got a wall calendar behind me. Maybe you say, Diane, we've got, well, maybe it's bigger than that wall calendar, but like we've got a big calendar on the wall in our office. We're all here every day, and so people can come into the development conference room and they can see our calendar, our plan. It's right there. I love it. I love analog, old school stuff. I mean, if you're fully remote or hybrid, I get it. You need to be digital. But sure, everybody can gather around that calendar and take a look. What's the plan? What's coming up? Oh, we don't have any more room. We can't add anything else. We have 3 deadlines in the next month, right? We can see what's coming. So it can be software. Gave you my quick Monday.com one. Again, we're not an affiliate, but like, hey, you can get it for free. So that's cool. Or it could be something super old school and physical, like a real calendar or whiteboard. What I don't want it to be is something on my Google Calendar that I don't share, that others can't access and edit. I don't want it to be something on just someone's Outlook calendar that maybe someone can see but can't add to. It could be a joint collaborative calendar, maybe you even call it grant calendar, that is not tied to one person, so that if someone left the organization or was, we'll just say they left the organization, right? Like all of a sudden the grant calendar's gone. We don't want that. So we want it to be a nice central place, even if it's a digital. So, all right, you think about what the tool is, you make sure every grant team member can see it. You might say, why is this so important? I'm trying to figure out how to make decisions about what we apply to or not. Remember that little story I just told? It was fake, about like we're standing in the conference room and we're looking at the wall and we're like, we can't take on something new. We have 3 things due later this month. If everybody on the grant team can't see your grant calendar, whether it's physical or digital, no one else is going to know what we just articulated. It's going to be just in your head, air quotes just. No one else will understand why you're thinking this is not a good idea. We need everyone to be able to see the plan, for it all to be visible, so that the capacity conversations make sense to other people. We don't have capacity. We do have capacity. I hadn't considered that I actually am a key partner for you on this application and for others in the next 2 months. Okay. We might see it on an Excel spreadsheet as an item on a list, but it is not the same as looking at it on a big plan, on a big calendar, thinking about what we have to do together over a long period of time. I'm sorry, Excel lists just don't give that same understanding to our team members or ourselves. All right. So step 3 is that we're actually going to do it. We're going to make the calendar so that we're taking everything that comes in from research and we're saying, yes, we want to apply. That means it goes on the calendar. Red, no. You know what? We might put that in like the grant idea folder, the maybe next year calendar. You might even say, listen, let's put that in like the last month of our 12-month grant calendar and put it on a list of things we want to consider for 2027? Or maybe you say, it's a no for now because we have to build a better relationship with the funder. Let's put it on the potential for 2027 deadline list. Let's put some notes in the 2026 calendar in July to start doing some relationship outreach. That is a sophisticated way to take the go, no-go decision to the next level, because you just made a very sophisticated yes or no decision related to this year, which is going to be really helpful for everybody. And then you said, wait, for next year to be successful, for next year to feel like there's a lot of green flags, I should do that homework. We should do that homework. We should build our grant plan so that we have relationship building in it. Oh, sneaky, sneaky. Like I said, super sophisticated. So, question for you, how many of you, when you think about your grant calendar, have relationship building notes, to-do items on your grant calendar, on your grant plan? Go ahead and let me know in the public chat. Y for yes, N for no. How many of you already have anything related to relationship building on your current grant calendar? Remember what I said is the word of 2026? Relationships. If you, for the way you think about your grant deadlines, the way that you document them, the way you make them visible to the team, wherever and however you have things laid out, if you don't already have relationship building notes and reminders on your grant calendar, please consider making that your one thing that you take away from today's session. I always talk about so many things that like it's too much to worry about doing all the things afterwards. Just one. What is the one thing you're going to try next? Adding relationships to your grant calendar is strongly suggested today for consideration as your one thing, unless you're some of the awesome folks in the public chat that just told me, yes, you do have it. Carolyn, Allison, I have my yellow dingy bell at the ready just for you. Yay, dingies. Because you are already doing the sophisticated thing of having your relationship building actions on your grant calendar. Now, I get it. My word is relationships. That's what I want folks to think about for 2026. If you prefer the word stewardship instead of relationships for 2026 for yourself, I'm not going to argue. To me, they are so closely related. I'm good with it. I tend to say relationships because we talk about our grant life cycle. All of them have a capital letter R. Relationships has R at the front. Stewardships has R much farther back in the word. So it's all the same. I'm just so excited to see that folks are doing it. And hopefully, if anybody has questions, you could also reach out to each other like, wait, does that really help? Yes, right? It helps because otherwise, if we don't put it on our calendar, what happens? We don't make it a priority. Or, whoops, it slips our mind. We know it's important, but it's not like the priority right in front of us because it isn't on our calendar. And we've got a whole bunch of other deadlines that are really front and center for us. So yeah, that calendaring of relationship actions is critical. That's going to set you up for future green flags. You might have felt the red flag this year when you looked at it, when you thought, I don't want to put it on the calendar. So therefore, the relationship building efforts in your grant calendar are increasing the chances that you will have green flags the next time you go to talk about that funder. So how do we make our organization comfortable with our go, no-go decisions? This is like the $1 million question, isn't it? I don't know. How do we do that? Because I told you that every organization feels differently because of a leadership preference, the organization's experiences, your organizational culture. There will be different reasons that a team might settle into something that feels comfortable for how they can say no. The reason we say strategic no, well, we find that a lot of organizations, a lot of fundraising professionals, development directors, leaders in organizations feel uncomfortable with the idea of saying no because they feel like they're saying no to money. You're not saying no to money. It's not your money yet. It's not awarded yet. You're not saying no to a grant award. Rather, the reason we say strategic no is you are strategically choosing where are you going to put your effort? Where are you going to think about which application is best for you? You physically cannot do all the applications that you would be technically eligible and potentially competitive for. It's that potentially competitive for part that makes people feel so optimistic. There's varying degrees of potential there. So you need to decide where is the best place, where is your highest chance and probability and likelihood of getting funded. So strategic no is not saying no to funding. Rather, it's actually saying yes, more effort, more focus, more relationship building on those where you stand the best chance of getting funding. So let's think about what it means to say no. Our team, we have a hard time saying no. We have a hard time saying no to each other if we ask each other for help. We have a hard time saying no if a client asks us for things. Some of us are just, our muscle is yes, because we want to help. My team, we are full of helpers, which means we always want to say yes. Yes, I can help. So for us, we also have to practice. What does that feel like to say no so that we can help our clients say no, so that I can teach and help you say no? If we say yes to everything, our grant process is stressful and it is not sustainable. So we want to say no. We want you to say no if the opportunity you are looking at does not align with one of those top 5 resource needs you listed when you were playing along with our research guidebook. If it is not something that helps one of those 5 things, that might be the first muscle that you build to say no. But it's number 7 on the list. True story. I had someone, awesome organization, really, really love the work they're doing. But the CEO said, I have 12 things on my list. This could help fund number 12. I do understand that it is big, it is important, but it's number 12. It is not as important as number 1, 2, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have opportunities that could fit those. Unless you tell me that all those other opportunities have been written and submitted and are pending, you should set number 12 down for now. You should focus on the things that are aligned with higher priority. Oh, you're right. Like it all feels important. It feels hard to walk away from money. That's why we want those top 5 to be listed, to be used as a filter for your building of no muscles. It's not that you will never ask for things that are lower on the priority list, but you want everything to get done that you possibly can for those top 5 before you spend effort and time as a team on things that are lower than that. So, but what else? Why are some of the other things we might say no? Some of these might feel easier than others. All right, could you do me a favor? Could you type into the public chat, please, where you are geographically located? Where is it that you're based? I will also play along, and I will type into the public chat the Thousand Islands. And the reason that it's important to think about where you're geographically based, or you might say where your work is focused, say either one, is because that is one of your easier muscles to strengthen related to saying no. All right. Oh, so this is going to be fun. So I've got the Pacific Northwest, and we've got Washington and Oklahoma, and I'm in the Thousand Islands, more Pacific Northwest, lower Alabama. Okay. So for me, I'm in the Thousand Islands. If I saw an opportunity that called out upstate New York, northern New York, Jefferson County, Lewis County, I'd be so excited. I would be so excited. Karen in Oklahoma pushing the strategic. I should make sure that that's actually, there you go. Now it says no, not upside down. No, it says no. Taryn's clicking no. Joseph in the Pacific Northwest, like, I think they're like on the same latitude as me. Strategic no. All right, so now it's not about me. And so, yeah, let's go to Seattle, shall we? Seattle or Bend, Oregon, or maybe actually the funder says Pacific Northwest. So Angelica, Jesse, Joseph, yeah, they're all like, I mean, maybe could be a fit, could make sense. So their hand is like hovering over the green strategic yes. They're thinking about it. They're digging more, learning about like what are the other things, the 7 items. They're thinking about green flags, red flags. And Carolyn in Lower Alabama, is your hand hovering over the strategic no? Like, I'm in Alabama, right? Yeah, my hand's over the no. No. Taryn in Oklahoma, probably again, no. Sorry, Taryn, you've had your hand on the no button twice. But that felt kind of easy, didn't it? It hopefully did. But helping your team to see the decision. I saw it. It looked great. Oh, wrong geography. We're going to push the strategic no. Not a fit. Wrong geography. That's an easy win for the team to feel. What does it feel like to say no? All right, good. They get better at that. You're already really good at it, but the rest of your team gets better at it. Now, okay, how could you strengthen their muscle more? The grant that we need is at least $500,000. I'm just making up some numbers. I wanted it to have lots of zeros. We need at least $500,000. This grant opportunity has an average grant size of $5,000. Let me know in the public chat, which button is your hand over? Y for yes and for no. You need, for whatever this project is, think of whatever one you want, you need at least $500,000. You're seeing an opportunity and it is for $5,000. Y for yes and for no. Let's see what folks think. We got a lot of no's. Now, some folks might argue, but it would get us started. I think we should do it. All right, somebody might make that argument. You know, this funder, that's just their like first time grantee average grant award, but then they get really big grants. I think we should do it. There could be a voice in the room that is making some strong arguments about wanting to click yes. But I'm curious, a lot of you said no. And I think it's because it was so small. You're like, I have to do a lot of $5,000 grants to raise that $500,000. Doesn't feel like a good use of my time. Unless everything else is done. Maybe it's a short application and you feel like you've got the time in the next day or two. Like that's how short it actually is. Maybe that could be the argument. See, okay, Jesse, thanks for hopping in as a yes on that seed money argument. It's not quite as clear, but you need to think about what's the return on investment? How much time and effort does it take versus how much potentially might you get for the award? So it's a little more gray than a clear green or a clear red, but that's a nicer spot for the team to have like a level 2 muscle building on your decision making. How complex is it? If you have 30 days and it's a 50-page narrative versus you have 30 days and it's a 2.5-page narrative, on length alone, if you had to make a choice, I'm making an assumption on your behalf that you would say no. If I could get the same money in 2.5 pages versus 50, I'm going to click no to the 50 and I'm going to click yes to the 2.5 pages. I think that's a fair assumption that we would pick something much lighter weight than 50 pages if the money was exactly the same. Another one, and this one's hard, folks are willing to do heroic things. If you do not have adequate time for the application, there will be different answers for different teams and for different types of grants. But if the timeline for submission does not match your capacity, yes or no? Different teams will have different answers. I will not call out to the colleague that I just read about on LinkedIn today, who was basically humble bragging about working till midnight multiple days in a row in order to meet short deadlines. And I was like, oh, that's not sustainable. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. All right. I mean, maybe you could do it for a night or two, but like, oh, not sustainable, right? That's going to burn folks out. And then who's going to write the grants? So saying no is an important muscle for the team to develop. Not that you're saying it every time, but that you're really thinking about what is the impact of applying for this grant on our overall grant seeking strategy. Now, I don't know about you. I don't always remember a lot from one day to the next because so much happens every day. So if you ask me to remember why we said no to an application 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago, 9 months ago, then I'm not sure those are good odds for any of us. Definitely not for me. Nope. There's too much that'll have happened. I'm like, I don't remember. So let's document. Why did we say no? That way, if colleagues, well-intentioned, awesome colleagues, want to know why did we not apply for that, we could let them know. And then if it comes up again next year, hey, do we want to apply for that this year? Here's why we said no last year. Did anything change since we looked at it last? Right? Help remind everyone. Help the new people that might be around on the team that weren't here last year. Here's what we said before. Do we want to say that again, or do we want to change our mind? So document why you say no. When we think about different teams, using these different ideas for approaching no's, strategic no's, versus those green flags and let's do it, what are some of the themes that you heard today? Priorities. Using your priorities as a filter will make your grant seeking strategy more sustainable, will make it more comfortable to say yes, and more comfortable to say no. Having some discussion as a team around what does it feel like to have different risk levels when we're applying. Do we want to spend our time on things that we've already had contact with, we've already had communication with a funder? That feels like a better reason why we might lean into something that otherwise would be a no. Some organizations we've worked with say we won't apply unless we have talked to the funder. They do not like the risk of spending time writing an application if they've not talked to the funder. So that red flag, the red flag of not talking to a funder, weighs in heavily on their decision process. They have to have more greens and red discussions, but that red flag they have said is so big, it feels so risky in terms of their return on investment of their time that they will not do it. They will not apply unless they've talked to a funder. That is what works for them. But it's because they acknowledge what does it feel like is comfortable risk for them. When we think about who gets to make the decisions, who's going to be the facilitator, who ultimately might be the tiebreaker if the team, say for example, when I asked that question about go, no go on the dollar amount, if we were evenly split, who's the tiebreaker? Go ahead, type into the chat the initials of the person in your team that you think would be the tiebreaker. If you were completely split, couldn't budge, who would it be? If you don't know, I would make that a decision within the team. I would talk about that in the next few weeks. Use that as something to help wrap up the year, think about how to start the next year successfully. Who is going to break the tie if we're not certain on whether we want to apply or not, whether we should or we should not? The reason that tiebreaker is important is it's going to cut your decision latency time. It's going to make it so that you can make a decision and move on. Remember, the longer the decision latency, the longer this discussion takes, the higher the risk that the application will not be successful, either because we're doing heroic things to get it out the door or big picture, it's not going to get funded. All right, on. Some of you already typed in initials or titles. Love it. And lastly, when you think about your go, no-go decisions, look at what's worked for you before. Look at what has been successful, what types of funders, look at the past practice of the percent of grants that you get when you talk to a funder versus when you don't. Look at the percent of grants that you get for particular projects or programs. See if there's differences across program areas. Use data and your own metrics about your own past performance to help you say, yes, we always get this type of grant. We should do this. It might not be a guarantee, but this is our most likely type of grant that we're getting in the last year or two. Let's do it. Versus this one that feels like more of a stretch, and we're going to say strategic, no, not now. Use your data about your past performance. Now, I could talk about all the decision making and how we make these hard decisions because they hurt. You're like, I don't want to miss the opportunity for the grant money. I get it. They're hard. But we don't have all day. You had 90 minutes. And so we have all sorts of questions that you could have. I'm guessing, though, that it might not come up as a question until like you're in the moment. So please always feel free to email me. If you're in a tough go, strategic no-go moment, drop me an email. I'm happy to answer. Message me on LinkedIn, wherever it is that you want to talk. Happy to answer. It does not need to be now. I will answer all your questions now. But when you are in that tough go, no-go scenario, feel free to reach out. Brooke, I'm a minute over. I'm so sorry. It's back to you.
No, you're fine. The information is very important and we care a lot more about that. I will get through my outro, folks, quickly so that you guys can go off to complete your day. But thank you so much for an incredible presentation, Diane. You guys can come back next Tuesday, I believe. Well, yes, next Tuesday on the 9th, and that'll be Don't Make Your Grant Makers Do Algebra, How to Present Clear Budgets and Budget Justifications. And that will once again be with Diane. We call her the goddess of grants around here. You surely see why after today's presentation. And I am putting a link to the webinar feedback survey for you in the chat right now. We really appreciate when y'all take the time to do those. It's like 2 to 3 minutes if you complete it, completely anonymous. You don't have to worry about your name or your email being attached to it. I look at them, so it's just numbers next to it. Doesn't say anybody's name or anything. And it just lets us know what we can improve upon in the future and what we can keep doing that makes you happy. And we share the feedback with our instructors as well. But again, next week on the 9th, please come back and join us for Don't Make Your Grant Makers Do Algebra. That'll be with Diane again. And feel free to check out this as well as our other recorded webinars. We post them to our YouTube channel. There is a whole playlist called the Cathedra Webinar Archive. I encourage you to check out that resource. YouTube is a free tool to use. And check out our other upcoming events. We post about them on our social media all the time. We're on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And if you are a podcast fan, we have an in-house produced one, the Hope a Thing, a Native American podcast. You can listen to that wherever you listen to your podcasts. Or if you're like me and you like to actually watch people interview their special guests, we post those recordings to our YouTube as well. But otherwise, that is all we have for you today, folks. Oh, I know, I agree, Angelica. Diane's amazing. But we hope that everybody has a great weekend. We hope that you are enjoying the holidays. And I hope to see everybody back next week on the 9th. Another great webinar coming. All right, y'all. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording. But I am going to keep the session open so that y'all have